anticipate when we would vote
What
on that?
What purpose does Mr. Jordan seek recognition?
Just to ask a clarifying question, do you anticipate when we might vote on the ability to have the whistleblower in front of us, something you, of the 435 members of Congress, you are the only member who knows who that individual is, and your staff is the only staff of any member of Congress who's had a chance to talk with that individual. We would like that opportunity. When might that happen in this proceeding today?
First, as the gentleman knows, that's a false statement. I do not know the identity of the whistleblower, and I'm determined to make sure that identity is protected.
And welcome to this edition of America Talks Live. A lot to get to on this Thursday afternoon, but the top story, of course, is the baseless and nonsensical impeachment inquiry that House Democrats are conducting against President Donald Trump. Now, that was House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff being asked a very relevant question by Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. There are 435 members of Congress. Why is Adam Schiff the only member of Congress that knows who the whistleblower is? And Schiff, on the record, said he did not. Many Americans do not believe that. I am one of them. I believe that Adam Schiff opened that hearing by lying to the American people. That's where I want to welcome in my next guest, Donald Trump Jr., who joins us by telephone. Don is the executive director of the Trump Organization. He's also author of the new New York Times #1 bestseller, Triggered: How the Left Thrives on Hate and Wants to Silence Us. Don, good to talk to you.
Good to be with you, John. How you doing?
Doing well. Congrats on the book going to #1. Well deserved. I think this is a topic that resonates with every American. I want to get right into Adam Schiff. When you had to testify in closed-door hearings during the Mueller investigation, many people, myself included, and you were vocal about it, felt that Adam Schiff improperly leaked that testimony. There was even video of him leaving the committee room on his cell phone. Seconds later, those stories were popping up in the media. Do you believe he was honest with the American people yesterday when he said he doesn't know who the whistleblower is?
Listen, he's been lying to the American people for 3 years, John. Don't forget, he's the guy that would get on TV every day after those hearings and say, he's seen evidence. He's seen it. Now, apparently he never gave it to Robert Mueller because Robert Mueller didn't see it, but he went out there telling the American people he's seen some sort of special evidence. It's just, we're waiting to release it. We heard that for 3 years. Okay, he's the guy that when I was testifying in front of the Senate House Intelligence Committee that he is apparently in charge of, but you wouldn't know it based on the results of what they're accomplishing. He would leave. We'd go to bathroom breaks. I got done with testifying at 7 o'clock. I open up Twitter, and there's a hour-by-hour at the bathroom break update on CNN. It's just there's too much smoke there, man. This guy's a dishonest dealer. He has been since day one. You know, presumably he's the guy that leaked my emails when they changed the date in my email to take a 14 and make it a 4. You eliminate the 1, so it looks like I had WikiLeaks 6 days before rather than 4 days after the rest of the known world. So they got their little bombshell. CNN printed it. You notice I never got a retraction. You notice they never burned their source, probably because their source is a high-up source, not a little, nothing in there. This guy has had more shade around him forever. He continues to change the rules because the fact set doesn't work, doesn't let Republicans ask questions. He's acted as judge, jury, and executioner of this sham process, and it's enough already.
Look, it is, Don, and I think a lot of people feel this way. I mean, how can one member of Congress from a relatively insignificant district, his district doesn't have large military bases, it's not a center of manufacturing, it's not a backbone district of the American economy. It has Hollywood, it has a lot of left-wing elites, but this guy is holding the entire country, the United States Congress, and to a large degree, much of Washington, D.C. hostage right now. The White House is ignoring him, and the president's going on with business as usual. But, man, the rest of the country is being held hostage by this guy, by Schiff.
They are. I mean, I'd love for these guys to, rather than focus on nonsense, that even their star witnesses don't know that there's anything wrong with what was going on. I mean, that was the big sham. I mean, you saw it yesterday. They don't know what's going on. They heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another deep state friend. I mean, and then you had a Democrat congressman go and say, no, hearsay. This third-party information that someone told someone who told someone else who told someone else, that's how they heard it. Hearsay is better than direct information.
It's ludicrous.
What kind of joke is this? And how come no one in the media is saying a damn thing about it? It's disgusting.
No, it is disgusting. We're talking about Representative Mike Quigley, who, I tweeted a little while ago, would Quigley want to go into surgery if his doctor heard from another doctor who heard from another doctor his test results? Because according to him, that's acceptable to him. Hearsay is acceptable. All right, I want to talk about going into 2020 election. Now, the vice president and President Trump have been strong allies. Vice President Pence, stalwart supporter of the president. But is there any scenario that you know of where Vice President Pence might say, I'm just sick of politics, I'm going to step aside, go into the private sector, make a little money, and someone like Nikki Haley might run with the president in 2020? Or is the president and Mike Pence committed to one another?
I believe there's commitment there. He's a great guy. He's a great American. I'll say this. I've got to spend a lot of time with him over the last few years. And, if there was ever something going on, I mean, good or bad, when my son broke his leg really badly a couple years ago, I mean, literally the first phone call was from Mike Pence, maybe the second after my father. But, and it wasn't like, this is the White House operator, please hold for the VP. It's like I pick up the phone and done. It's Mike Pence. How are you doing? Is everything okay? I mean, this is a guy that's just a truly, genuinely good guy. You'd have to ask him what he would want to do. But,
Sure.
This is a great guy, and they are committed.
All right, talking about Nikki Haley, she also wrote a book, and I want to get deep into your book in a moment. But in Nikki Haley's book, she alleges that people like Rex Tillerson and the former chief of staff John Kelly, two people that Trump's base, the America First base, really were not fans of, that they were actually trying to actively undermine the president by countermanding his orders, by contradicting him. They went to people like Haley. Do you believe that was the case?
Honestly, based on what I've seen, it doesn't surprise me at all. You have sort of these people in there that, they're the elite and they're the this and they know better, and, they're not elected to do anything, but they're going to run it their way. You see it that way with some of these ambassadors, certainly with the ones relevant, today, where, he doesn't know, so we're going to do it. No, you work for him. You're supposed to enact his policies, not the other way around. So I imagine you'll see more of that nonsense, tomorrow, because I know I got dragged into yet another controversy a while ago when I tweeted out, an article where basically, ambassadors are getting called out for not doing what the president wants them to do. And, we know better. It's like, no, your job is to work for him. You're not elected. You're put there by the president. You should probably be following his orders, not your own, because you think you know better. And that's the sad reality, is that's what you have in D.C. And I think in the age of Trump, where you have a unique individual running the presidency and running the country, you have someone like that. You contrast that to the swamp, and all of these people, even if they're brought in by Trump, they're like, there feels like there's a hedge. There's always in 5 years when Trump leaves, if it goes back to business as usual, do I have to keep up, my swamp relationships to be able to make sure I get whatever job? If I go all in on Trump, but I don't try to prevent, what the deep state wants me to do, does it create a problem? And so there are many people who are not going to serve him as well as they should. They are not going to do their jobs as described because they're covering their butts for the future. And that's a true shame. So, I don't know enough about the details about it, but you certainly see that in a lot of the commentary during, before, and after their tenures.
Yeah, look, I think you don't even have to go to inside baseball. The American people, the 64 million people who voted for Donald Trump, also see people like General Mike Flynn, an American hero, Roger Stone, a sensational guy, but a political consultant, and Paul Manafort, all being prosecuted. A lot of problems with General Flynn's case now. That whole thing might just go fire backwards on the government. But nobody on the left, guys like Tony Podesta, who were partners with Paul Manafort, nobody on the left, despite what they did, they got immunity, Queen for a Day letters. It's ridiculous. The American people see it. And so when you talk about hate and the left silencing us and triggered, do you also mean these, what I think are malicious political prosecutions?
Oh, without question. I mean, you see that day in, day out. I mean, you look at what they put me through for a 20-minute unsolicited meeting versus Hunter Biden and all the shade around that. Billions of dollars while his father's doing this. The father's on tape. It's literally saying these things, laughing about how he extorted the Ukraine
Right.
On the Burisma investigations and all of that nonsense. I mean, the double standard and sort of the false equivalency that the media tries to create between, it's so disgusting. It's so flagrant. It's so obvious at this point. But you're right. The other side, if they served in the military and you're a leftist, you get full immunity. There could be they're above reproach, John. You can't even question them. But if you're on the right, you served in the military, it's like zero credit. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You're a terrible person. I mean, it's a big part of what I wrote in the book was just pointing out those double standards. How they love to sort of. You saw it with Robert Mueller. He was a decorated Marine, and he was the former head of the FBI.
Man of integrity.
Attack this guy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you put him on the stand in about 3 minutes. You go, did this guy even freaking read his report? Like, does he know what planet is he on? I mean, I almost had he not tried to be putting me in jail for 3 years, I would have almost felt bad for how pathetic it was.
It was, yeah.
And that's the reality, but that's why he was there.
Well, look, you know, they're doing this to the student body president at the University of Florida. They're trying to impeach this kid because he had the audacity to have you speak at the university. I mean, if that's not trying to silence, if that's not cancel culture, what is?
No, and I mean, you know, how many leftists speak on college campuses? I guarantee you it's, 9 to 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 50
Probably.
to 1. None of those numbers would surprise me. But that's the reality of this world. Anything you could do, and you know, campuses has become the least tolerant places in the world. They're not training kids to be tolerant of anything other than their one view, you know, taught by a bunch of leftist academics and socialists. It's getting truly scary, and we got to push back. And that's, again, it's a big part of why I wrote the book, because you got to point this stuff out. You know, I can only do so much in 280 characters on Twitter.
Right.
Sometimes you got to go long form and really explain the rationale, explain the thoughts. And I think once people sort of get a deeper dive into what's there, it's like, wow, it's actually, you know, even if you're not sort of a conservative, I think you could probably learn a lot about the mentality and the differences and the things that we see that so many on the left would probably actually, you know, the reasonable people still in the middle would be like, oh, wow, I don't even get it, because, you know, our voice box is so, the vacuum in which we live is so narrow. People have never even thought outside of those boxes. That's why people in the media, you know, they couldn't imagine. I don't know anyone voting for Trump. Who would vote for Trump if this thing's over? You know, 0% chance of winning. You know, everyone's been trapped in their own little bubble for far too long. So I think it's important to break out of that.
I do too. Don, before I let you go, we have a little bit left. Rudy Giuliani, he was the subject of much of the conversation yesterday in these impeachment inquiry hearings. They're trying to make him out to be an arch criminal. I see a lawyer defending his client. How's the president's relationship, as far as you know, with Rudy? Still as strong as ever?
I imagine so. You know, I haven't been that involved in for the last 10 days. I've been on the book tour, so I've been traveling the country, getting a taste of, you know, sort of America, you know, doing all of that. But I will say this. I've been asked a lot of questions and doing about 3,000 book signings a day for a week. And the amount of people who have asked me about impeachment or any of those things is exactly zero.
Yep.
I mean, exactly zero. I mean, and like I said, I've shaken hands, signed books probably over 10,000 this week. It's sort of amazing. So I think the American people are getting it. I think they see it for what it is. The media and the left, which really one and the same, have overplayed their hand as always. And again, the good hard working of people of this country who just want to live their American dream, they see through the nonsense. If they even thought about it a little bit the first time around, now they're realizing this is just version 2.0 of how do we get Trump, because we don't like him, because he's taking on the establishment and everything that they have spent so much time trying to build that has done nothing for the American people. So I'm not too worried about it based on that. And, you know, I was around a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think most Americans could not care less about impeachment. They're worried about themselves and their families. Donald Trump Jr., the new book is Triggered. You can get it everywhere books are sold. Don, thanks so much.
Thank you very much, man.
All right, we're going to have more on the impeachment hearings with the RNC's Liz Harrington right after this. Stick with us.